Venezuela's Electoral Commission says turnout in the controversial vote was 41.5%, with just over 8 million people casting their ballots. Counting began on Sunday night, with early results expected within hours. Despite the mass boycott, President Maduro called the vote a success with great participation by the people. Anyone with eyes can see it, he says. The oligarchy doesn't have eyes or ears for the people. To them, they're invisible. We don't care about the opinion of the oligarchs. We care about the truth of the people. Opposition leaders have called on people to protest on Monday against the assembly and to remember those killed in anti-government demonstrations. For them, the vote is not legitimate, just a blatant attempt to impose a communist dictatorship. The head of the opposition-led National Assembly said this is an authoritarian government acting totally outside the constitution. And today the people of Venezuela have won, a free, rebel people with a determination to secure victory for democracy. The government's been defeated, and whatever that Constituent Assembly does, neither the Venezuelan people nor the international community will recognize it. US officials say the Trump administration is considering imposing more sanctions. Washington's UN ambassador denounced Sunday's vote as a sham and a step towards dictatorship. The talk is of hitting Venezuela's vital oil sector, with possible action including a ban on the sale of lighter US crude, hampering the country's refining network.
As many as 14 people have been killed in violent clashes between regime forces and protesters in Venezuela, marring Sunday's election of a controversial new assembly. Among the dead are an opposition youth leader, a pro-government candidate and a soldier. Security forces used armoured vehicles to disperse demonstrators, and gunfire could be heard across the country. Let these boys who resist for us, who didn't even vote for these people, continue to fight. God protects all. As voting got underway, protesters took to the streets in spite of a government ban, and casualties were reported on both sides.
President
Nicolas Maduro lost the potential of Chávez's legacy, and he has deviated from the principles required to have power. He does not consider the people. The vote, which the opposition sees as a power grab by the president, will see the creation of a new constituent assembly with the power to rewrite the constitution and override Congress. The opposition want violence and war. They do not want us, but we will keep on fighting, and they have to understand that they won't prevail. The opposition has announced that it will continue demonstrating against the Constituent Assembly, which will be installed on August the 3rd. According to political analysts, Venezuela will then be plunged into international isolation and see sanctions slapped on it from across the world. From Caracas, Eduardo Salazar Uribe for Euronews. In what is thought to be the largest expulsion of diplomats from any country in modern history, President Vladimir Putin has ordered hundreds of American staff to leave US diplomatic missions in Russia. Although the decision was made on Friday in retaliation for new US sanctions against Moscow, Putin has now confirmed that 755 diplomats must go by the 1st of September. Staff at the embassy in Moscow, as well as those at the consulates in Ekaterinburg, Vladivostok and St. Petersburg, are affected by Putin's order, and the exodus will bring the diplomatic workforce to 455, the same as Russia's complement in Washington. The Russian government is also seizing holiday properties and a warehouse used by US diplomats, and Putin said he may yet consider more measures.
Владислав Малаховский. Корабль имеет возможность поражать крупные морские подводные крейсеры. Ордена Нахимова тяжелый атомный ракетный крейсер Петр Великий. Самый мощный и защищенный корабль в мире. Командир корабля, капитан первого ранга. Тяжелый атомный подводный ракетный крейсер стратегического назначения Дмитрий Донской. Командир корабля, капитан первого ранга Олег Цыбин. Проект 941 «Тайфун» разработан конструкторским бюро «Рубин» в Санкт-Петербурге.
A warning from Washington to North Korea with boosted American military activity. The US has carried out a test of its ballistic missile defense system after Pyongyang's latest launch of a missile that landed in the sea off Japan on Friday. Washington also said that 2 supersonic B-1B bombers have flown over the Korean peninsula alongside South Korean and Japanese fighter jets. Earlier, the US ambassador to the UN said her country was done talking about North Korea. In TV statements on Sunday, Pyongyang hit back at the US, warning it against what it calls military adventure and the use of tougher sanctions. North Korea claims it's been forced to develop long-range missiles and nuclear weapons because of what it calls hostile intent by Washington. Pyongyang's missile test came a day after the US Senate approved a package of new sanctions against North Korea, Russia and Iran.
Japan says it's agreed with the US on the need for more action against North Korea, hours after Washington issued another warning to Pyongyang and boosted its military activity in the region. It follows North Korea's long-range test on Friday, launching a missile that landed in the sea off Japan. In Tokyo, the Prime Minister spoke to the US President on the phone for nearly an hour. Shinzo Abe said President Trump and I completely agreed that we must also take further action. We'll make every possible effort to protect our citizens' safety against the threat from North Korea. He said both leaders thought repeated international efforts to find a solution had not borne fruit, but he didn't spell out what steps might be taken. Officials say the two countries didn't discuss military action against North Korea. The US has responded to Pyongyang's moves over the weekend by testing an anti-missile system based in Alaska. Washington also flew bombers over the Korean peninsula alongside South Korean and Japanese planes. The US has called on China to take a stand on stronger UN sanctions against North Korea.
Thousands gathered in the Pakistani capital Islamabad on Sunday in support of opposition party leader Imran Khan before a meeting of parliament on Tuesday which will see a new prime minister elected. The crowds joined Khan in celebrating the ousting of former leader Nawaz Sharif, who resigned on Friday following a decision from Pakistan's Supreme Court to disqualify him from public office. Addressing the rapturous crowds, Khan, who is chairman of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party, said, "The Supreme Court verdict gave us hope. It did the job which I dreamed for. It laid the foundation for a new Pakistan." Sharif stepped down after a probe into his family's wealth following the Panama Papers leak in 2015 linked his children to offshore companies. His brother Shahbaz has been mooted as his potential successor, fueling rumours of nepotism within the ruling Pakistan Muslim League. Former Petroleum Minister Shahid Khaqan Abazi will act as interim Prime Minister until elections are held.
The British royal couple joined members of the Belgian royal family and relatives of soldiers in the city of Ypres to mark the centenary of the World War I Battle of Passchendaele, named after the final offensive in the last Great War of Attrition on the Western Front. More than 500,000 Allied and German soldiers were killed, wounded or went missing in the hard-fought 3-month-long Allied offensive by British and Commonwealth forces on rain-drenched battlefields that turned to liquid mud and barely moved the front line against the Germans. Later, the royals joined Belgium's King Philippe and Queen Mathilde for a ceremony at the Menin Gate in Ypres, which is etched with the names of thousands of missing soldiers.
E agora nós vai break e ora nós back e deporte.